Hello, everybody. My name is Dan, and this is my series Practicing English. The temperature today is 33 Celsius, and it's a little bit colder than yesterday. And yesterday, I had a lot of things to eat, but my teeth can't. My teeth couldn't because no, I changed uh, my teeth. I changed my teeth by my teeth were changed by fake teeth, and it's really hard for me to choose something. So I just choose things easy to choose. Okay, like soft thing and easy to eat, and keep continue to keep continuing reading book. So let's go with me. Chapter 3, Family of Witches. I ran from Mocking Tower down to the hill into New Church. James followed me. I want to go to Reed Hall too, he said. He ran through the trees to Sabin Brook. The noise of the river was beautiful in my ears. We went along the river to the village of Sabin. Then it began to rain. Suddenly, we heard the noise of horses behind us. We got up the road and watched the horses. It was Roger Nowell with some of his men. They saw it, and Mr. Nowell stopped. It devised children, he said. What's your name, child? My name is Janet, I said. We're going to read home. I want to talk to you. Roger Nowell looked at me with his warm brown eyes. Very well, he said. Come home with me and we can talk. He lifted me up onto his horse, and the horse moved quickly along the road to the village of Reed. James ran along behind us. Very soon, we arrived at Red Home. The servant opened the door for us, and we went into the warm house. James came in and sat down next to me near the fire. Mr. Noel put his black hat down on the table. Bring hot drink for and some food for these children, he told the servant. They are cold and hungry. The servant brought bread and hot milk for us, and James and I ate hurriedly. I feel warm and happy in Mr. Noel's house. I wanted to stay here there all my life. I never wanted to go back to Mocking Tower. When we finished eating, Mr. Noel looked up from his book. You want to talk to me? He said quietly. Well, I'm listening. I got up, went across the room, and stood in front of Mr. Noel. I'm afraid of my mother, I began. I'm afraid because she's a witch and she can kill people. The room was quiet. Mr. Noel said nothing, but his brown eyes were kind. My mother and her friends are at Martin Tower. I told him they want to go to Lancaster Castle and kill the ghosts. They're going to bring Delight and Alison home again. Mr. Noel got up and left the room. After some time, he came with two of his friends. They all sat down at the table. Janet, I want you to tell me again about your mother and her friends. They want to kill. Uh, sorry. They want to kill the ghosts at Lancaster Castle and bring all them like and mark it to home to Marking Tower, I say. Then I began to cry. Don't cry, Mr. Noel said kindly. We can help you, but we must talk to your brother first, Janice. He called. James, he called. Tell me about your mother. Is she a witch? She a witch. Well, all witches, Jane began. All Eli's a witch. One night she went to the church, a new church, and got some teeth from dead bodies there. The devil talked to her, and she brought the teeth to Mocking Tower. We're underground by our door. All them like, all them lies a witch. We know that. Mr. Noel said, "Tell us about your mother." Mother's a witch, James said. She killed Mr. Robinson from Bartley Village. She made a clay pitcher and then she broke it, and Mr. Robinson died a week later. James smiled at Mr. Noel. He liked Mr. Noel because Noel didn't shout at him. "I'm a witch too. I can kill people." "No, James," I cried. "You are not a witch. You don't kill people." "Yes, I do," James said angrily. His face was red. "My dog, Danny, is the devil, and he killed a man for me. I wanted a shirt, and Mr. Duckworth was going to give me one of his old shirts, but in the end, he didn't give it to me, and I was very angry. Nearly I killed Mr. Duckworth, but I called Danny, and he killed Mr. Duckworth for me." I began to cry. "My mother was a witch, too. All my family were witches." "Don't cry, Janet," Mr. Noel said. "Someone must take care of you. You can stay here at the Red Horn with me." When Mr. Noel's man brought my mother to Red Horn, she said nothing at first. "Tell us about the picture of your clay," Mr. Noel said. "My man found picture of clays at Mocking Tower." My mother said nothing. "Your mother? Oh, damn like is a witch. Your daughter is a witch," Mr. Noah said. "Your son killed Mr. Duckworth because of a shirt. Now tell us about the clay pictures." My mother said nothing. James told us about Mr. Robinson of Bartley. Mr. Noel said, "Do you kill him?" Suddenly my mother's face went red and she began to shout at James. "I guess and you are. You told this rich man about Jack Robinson of Barley? Well, you told the truth. I killed him. I made a clay pitcher. Then I broke it. And a week later he died. I killed him because I hate him. I hated him." She stopped and looked at me. I wanted to run away, but Mr. Noel's servant stood in front of the door. Then my mother laughed. "Janet Devine's witch daughter. You hate us." "I know that." "Well, it doesn't matter because you're right. You are different. You're my daughter, but you're not the daughter of my husband. Your father was a rich man, but he never gave me money. A witch child, he called you. And when you were born, he never came here me again. Jack Robinson learned the truth about your father. He told the villagers of Barley, and they called me a bad woman. But they didn't call your father a bad man. Nobody in Burley gave me food again. Because of Jack Robinson, I hated him, so I killed him." The room was quiet, and my mother laughed again. My hands felt cold and my face was hot, but I didn't cry. When Mr. Divine died, I cried for days, but he was not my father. I looked at my mother, at her dirty hair and her ugly face, at her angry eyes. I hated her then, and I hated her for many years. Chapter 4. Truth and Liars. One 27th day of April, the guards took my mother and James to Lansgatter Castle, and my life at Red Hall began. Suddenly it was spring. The sky was blue, and there were beautiful flowers on the hills. From Redhall, Pendle Hills looked different. It looked smaller, and it was not so important in my life. Sometimes I walked along Sabin Brook to Sabin, and then to New Church, and I felt happy to be near Pendle Hill again, but I never visited Marking Tower again. Spring changed into summer, and in August I went Lancaster with Mr. Noel. Lancaster was 30 miles from Reed Hall, and I've got very tired because I sat on the horse for hours. It was a big, noisy town. I never saw so many people before in my life, and I felt afraid. The trial of the witches of Endor again began at Lancaster Castle on the 18th day of August, and the was an important man from London. Judge Bromley listened to many people on that day because there were a lot of witches from Lancashire in the prison. All them like were not there because she died in May before the judge arrived. I waited, Mr. Noel's servant, and when the guard called my name, I went through a big door and saw the judge behind the table. Judge Bromley was rich and important, but his eyes were cold. Suddenly I saw my mother. She was dirty and very thin. When she saw me, her face went red. My hair was clean now, and I wore shoes and expensive dress. I saw my mother's eyes. She hated me. Are you a witch? Judge Bromley asked my mother. No, I'm not, my mother answered angrily. Did you kill Jack Ferguson of Barley Village? No, I did not. Janet Device is here, a voice said quietly. It was Mr. Noel. She can't tell us the truth about her mother. For a minute, my mother didn't move, and she ran across the room and shouted at me. You know nothing, you bad child, and I'm your mother. Don't forget that. The guards ran after my mother and pulled her to the floor. I'm no witch, my mother shouted. It's, it's all lies, Janet. You are a witch, a child of devil. You're my, you're my daughter, and I know. I was afraid, and I put my hands over my eyes. I didn't want to see my mother's ugly face. The guards pulled my mother out of the room, and noise, and the noise stopped. Janet Device, the judge said, tell us the truth about your mother. Roger Noel lifted me up and put me on the table in front of the judge. My mother is a witch. My mother is a witch. I began. She has a friend, a dog called Bob. When she wants to kill somebody, she tells Bob. I talk and talk. I told the judge everything. Judge Bromley listened carefully, my child. Is this the truth? Yes, I answer. I'm telling you the truth. The guards brought my mother back into the room again. Her face looked tired and her eyes were red. Elizabeth Device, your daughter told us about your dog, Ball. Your son, too, told us about the clay pictures. We know everything. My mother said nothing. She didn't look at the judge and she didn't look at me. Next, the girls brought my brother James into the room. I saw James. I wanted to cry. James was thin and dirty, and his hair was very long. He looked at the judge at all the rich had an important man in the room, and he began to cry. Then he sat down on the floor. Stand up, James Device. Judge Bromley said. Okay, the guards pulled James up, but he fell on the floor again. You killed Mr. Duckworth? Judge Brumley said. I wanted a shirt, James cried. Is your brother a witch? Judge Brumley asked. Yes, I say. My brother sat on the floor, his mouth opened. He looked at me. He didn't know me. I was clean and fat because of all the good food at Red Hill. James told me about his friend Daddy. Again, Daddy was a devil. And James heard the name Daddy. He began to cry again. I want Daddy. I want to go home. The guards pulled him up from the floor and took him out of the room. I never saw my brother again. When the guards brought my sister Alison in front of the judge, I said nothing. Joe Law, the peddler, came into the room. He was a thin man now. He walked slowly and he talked slowly and his face looked ill. He told the judge about that day near Corn when Alison cursed him and her dog ran after him. I'm sorry, Alison said. I was angry with you that day, but I'm sorry now. Alison's eyes were dark and afraid, but she had no friends in that room and nobody wanted to listen to her. Mr. Noel took me out, and I waited with his servant in different room. After an hour later, there was a noise of many people shouting and crying. The servant smiled. The trial is finished, he said. You're a good child, Janet. You told the church the truth about the witches. Mr. Noel took me home to Reed Hall, and on the 20th day of August 1612, the guards took my mother, my sister, my brother out of the prison and had them in front of Lancaster Castle. And so I lost my family. When I was a child, I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be warm, to wear shoes, and to eat good food. I wanted someone to take care of me. That's all. My mother gave me nothing. She gave me no love. She never took care of me because my mother was rich. My father ran away and I never knew him. My father was a rich man without a name and I lived hungry, cold with a witch. And so I told Judge Bromley the truth about my family. Was I wrong? I don't know. I was happy for years at Red Hall. For 21 years, I forgot my family. I learned to cook for Noel family. I worked for many hours every day, but I was warm and I ate good food. Every Sunday, in my best dress, I went to church. Every summer, I walked over the Pendle Hill. I never talked about my family because I was happy at Red Hall. In August 1612, the guards had my family in front of Lancaster, but their dead faces waited for me there. And years ago, in 1633, when the guards put me into the prison in Lancaster Castle, I met them again. Day after day, I see their ugly, dead faces and hear their cold, angry voices. I think of them all the time. God, God is here with me in the prison. I believe that, but my dead family is with me too. Mr. Webster from the church at Kilwich with me and visits me again. His blue eyes are tired, but he smiles at me. Emmett Provision and his father told the truth in London. He said quietly, the child told lies about you because he was afraid of his father. He wanted his father to love him. I said nothing. Mr. Webster wants to be kind, but he cannot help. Mr. Noel cannot help me because he is dead. his dad, Ahmed provisions, is only a child. He tells lies one day and the truth the next day, but the truth cannot help me. I can do against hate and lies. When Mr. Noel was alive, the villagers didn't talk about me, but when Mr. Noel died, the lies began. The villagers are all afraid of me because my name is Device. They hate me because of my name is Device. They say I am a witch because my name is Device. I come from a family of witches, but I'm not a witch. Nobody died because I cursed them. I never made clay teacher. I never had a cat or dog. I only wanted to live quietly at Redhorn and watch the changing skies over Pendle Hill. When I was a child, I was always cold and hungry, and I hated my family because they all were witches. In 1612, I told the truth, and the truth killed my family. Now 22 years later, lies are going to kill me. Here is Lancaster. I'm going to go hungry again. Mr. Webster give me bread and I go back on to into the prison. I can never go back to Red Hall. I know that now. I must stay here, Lancaster, with my dead family. They are watching me and waiting for me. I can never be free of them. This is the truth. This is my true story. I wanted to finish now. Oh my God, I thought about the witches. Why she do it? She explained it in the last chapter because she uh, she have no love from her family, so she decided to tell everybody the truth. But is it true or just a lie? I don't know. But this is your thought, her thought, and this is my thought. So this is a long story and sad happy ending. Oh, thank you for listening and until next time.